Um, so firstly, I'll introduce myself. My name is Gráinne O'Rourke, and I am a member of the sustainability team here in LBS Partners, along with my colleague John Staunton, who's going to be speaking to you today as well.
Hi all, you're all welcome.
And so our webinar today is on deploying and communicating your sustainability strategy. And so, John, you're going to take us through why this is important.
Exactly. So the first problem is, well, why would you do this at all? So we've looked into this, and I suppose there's a number of pressures that come on business, and one for sustainability could come from your customers. Many customers now only want to deal with businesses who have strong sustainability credentials. It can come from your employees, and it can also be a very good way of attracting and keeping employees of quality. It also can create market opportunities for the business. And if none of those sort of get you, well, then regulation may do. And that will come in the form of the CSRD, or the Corporate Social Reporting Directive from the EU, which has already become law in Ireland for large companies. And you might think, oh, well, I'm not a large company, so this doesn't apply to me. But you may be dealing with a large company, and they will come looking for information from you on your sustainability credentials and on what you're doing, and as in order to be able to complete their ones. So this is going to filter down as well from larger companies this year down to smaller, next level, and eventually it will come down to everybody. So this is a good time to start your journey.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's what we're seeing with clients, that there really is a need now. And in a lot of cases, it is their customers driving it when they do have to do that CSRD reporting. And so what we're also finding then is that people don't know where to start. There's so much confusion out there. Unfortunately, the sustainability industry in general is currently jam-packed with acronyms. And people don't know where to begin. And so what we're trying to do here in LBS Partners is cut through some of that confusion and give you some frameworks and tools that will make stepping through and figuring out all of those different elements a bit clearer and a bit easier. And so we've developed a 4-step process to get you started. So 4-step process to develop your sustainability strategy. So firstly, it's doing a double materiality assessment. Second, we step you through baselining what you're currently doing. Step 3, strategy creation and deployment. And that's the step we're going to focus on today. And then 4 is implementation. But I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on double materiality, because it can be kind of, it sounds complicated, but it is coming from the CSRD, the EU directive, as a step that those large companies must take to do their sustainability reporting. But it's also really useful for medium and smaller enterprises, because essentially what you're doing is figuring out the most important aspects of sustainability for your organization. So the things that are material to you. And the double materiality aspect of it is that instead of only looking at what external things could influence your organization, so for instance, when it comes to sustainability, how might global warming impact our organization and how we do our business, but also how your organization can influence society and can impact the environment and sustainability in general. So that's the double aspect of it. You're both looking how things on the outside can impact you and how you can impact the environment. And so by carrying out double materiality assessment, for instance, if you're an organization who works in services, well then water stewardship, so making sure you've good conservation of water, isn't going to be material to you as it might be for a brewing company who are using water as an input to their process. So in that case, that's not material for you, but other aspects of sustainability really are. And so you're filtering down what are the items that you're actually going to be the starting point within your strategy. So then step 2 is baselining. Where are you now? This is conducting a gap analysis. you may already be doing a number of important things, but potentially you're just not highlighting them as part of your sustainability journey. So, for instance, you could have a recycling initiative that you're running at the moment, but you haven't outlined that within your broader sustainability strategy. And then secondly, baselining on your carbon emissions. That's really important. With the goal, for the EU to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030, you first have to measure them to start reducing them. So that again will be an input into your strategy. So then, as I said, we're going to focus on the strategy creation and deployment aspect of this 4-step process. And so in LBS, we always like to give you tools and frameworks that can help you through these doing these projects. And so the one we focus on for creating a strategy is the X matrix, often called Hoshin planning. And it's a tried and tested tool in strategy development and can absolutely be repurposed for sustainability. John, you've used this tool a number of times and you found some really good advantages for your clients when you do this.
Yeah, that's correct, Grania. It gives an overall picture for the business as a whole, and then it can be taken and used by different divisions within the business, different departments within the business, depending on how big or small the organization is. And its key thing is to help everyone to align to the overall goals of the organization, and to be able to see how what they do can impact positively on what the organization is trying to achieve. So, for example, if the organization is trying to achieve zero carbon, well, then they can see, every department, everyone can see what part they can play in achieving that, and they can see the progress and develop their strategies and their workload in a way that facilitates that. And it helps them in establishing priorities and streamlining their decision making. And key, it is about monitoring progress. It's no good having a policy or having a strategy if it's not being monitored and measured regularly. So yeah, I think it's typically on a quarterly basis, you would review all your objectives at the different levels and in how it is impacting overall as well for the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to kind of step you through how to use this tool. So first of all, you'd start off with determining your long-term strategic objectives. You would often take these from that materiality assessment you would have done. So the big ticket items that are going to be important for your organization when it comes to sustainability. And these are usually, 3 to 5 year goals. And with, I suppose, those 2030 objectives on the horizon now at about 5 years out, those are the kind of things you want to be including in your strategic objectives. And so you'd list them beneath this side of the X. Then you move around the corner to the annual objectives. And here you want to document, well, if we need to get there in 5 years' time, what do we need to do this year? How far do we need to get this year? So that's breaking that down into smaller annual objectives. Then you further move around the X into quarterly projects. So bite-sized chunks, bite-sized projects of that annual objective that you can carry out within a quarter. And we think quarterly is a good way to go about this, because they're more manageable, right-sized projects that your teams can carry out. And then finally, what are the key results? So having measures and metrics around your projects. If we do want to reduce carbon emissions by 50% by 2030, well, what are the projects that are going to get us 5% of the way there, 10% of the way there within each quarter? And having those measurables there really kind of brings these projects to life. And finally, who is going to complete the projects? This is where the X matrix, the actual deployment side of your strategy, comes to life. Because on one document, you have what those objectives are, what are the small projects that are going to get you there, how are you going to measure it, and also who are the individuals who are going to be involved. And so I have an example here of a sustainability X matrix. It looks a little bit overwhelming when you see it like this, but actually, if we use that same process to work around the X, it really comes to life and you can see the value in it. So I'm just going to step us through the grey objective. So the 2030 strategic objective here for this organisation was to eliminate the use of plastic packaging from all products. And so they've broken that down for 2025 into eliminating the plastic packaging in a specific line. So for them, it was in line 1. So they've taken that chunk, that area that they want to go after in 2025. And the projects to do that, they've identified one for Q1 and one for Q2. And that's to research and test non-plastic alternatives for their outer sleeve, an item of their packaging in Q1, and then for a tray component in Q2. And so the key result there is that they need to find an effective non-plastic sleeve and tray component for those plastic packaging elements. And then you can also see on the top right that we have a project team identified. So the project lead is outlined and also the project team. So you can see now how kind of we've taken the high level strategic objective, broken it down into digestible chunks and things that we can track over time to try maintain, you know, our direction towards the overall 2030 strategic objective. So John, when you've done this with clients, are there other kind of elements that they find useful?
Yes, Ganya. One of the key things then is that when the group or the company or have an overall X matrix, that X matrix then can be made visible to everybody. Then each area can take it and create their own X matrix, so that this can filter down into steps at lower levels, so that actually every part of the company can have their own X matrix that they're working on, but all aligned to the overall goals of what we're trying to achieve, what the business is trying to achieve. I think this is one of the great powers of the X matrix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that visibility and alignment definitely is important and makes it very useful. The communication as well that you get through an X matrix. So, you know, I know it can look a little bit complex to begin with, but it just takes a small bit of explaining for your broader organization on how to read them to do that communication piece. But the really valuable aspect of it is, particularly for project teams within the organization, is that they can see and understand how this project that they're working on, so the finding plastic alternatives, how it's building up to the bigger picture. And what we find is when people know that the work they're doing has value for the broader organization and is part of a strategy, that really drives engagement within the teams. But some other do's when it comes to communicating your sustainability strategy internally is that to make sure you do share the strategy with everyone in your organization. So often strategy documents are kind of developed by the senior leadership and they're kept at that level. But when it comes to sustainability, it's really needs to be taken up by the whole organization. And so communicating the direction and the strategic objectives that your organization want to achieve really brings it to life and make sure everybody is involved. Further to that, displaying it everywhere where people can see. So if you have an X matrix that you've developed, that there's access to that on a SharePoint or an intranet, that people can go in and view it. What we find really useful with clients is when you have a single contact point, a kind of an owner of your sustainability strategy, that they can then be the one that, if people do have questions and want further communication about it, that they know who to go to. Or, you know, if you are when you're using the X matrix, to do that explaining to people how it works and how to read it. Asking for input and feedback on the strategy. So I suppose with a lot of the work we do in LBS Partners, we find that the people closest to the processes are the ones who have the best ideas and the most innovative ideas. And so seeking out that input from everybody within the organization when it comes to sustainability further drives that engagement as well. And then, you know, perhaps in your organization, not everybody has access to computers, and so may not be able to view the X Matrix, but creating engaging communication around your strategy is really, really great. And I've kind of, for this organization with their plastic project, I've done one up. So their 2030 strategic objective to eliminate all plastic packaging from their products. Here we've documented the why they want to do that, the how, which we've discussed within their X Matrix, and also the project team that if people are interested, they can go and speak to them about it. And so what we're doing here is just, you know, trying to take a strategy that can feel a little bit impersonal and create something that can be communicated broadly and can just be put up in canteens, in you know, corridors, and you can then see what your organization is trying to do.
Yeah,
But of course we have our dues.
as you said already, the beauty of that is that this can be refreshed. You can take particular aspects of your strategy or particular projects and keep everything alive, keep changing them. So your notice board, so maybe every few months you change this, you put up your new project or one of the other projects that have been done, so that people can see that this is a live thing that's happening and it's not just something that's just gathering dust in the back of someone's cupboard.
Absolutely. And actually that's a point we didn't touch on with the X Matrix, that, you know, they are living documents and your strategy is ever evolving, because if you're committing to, you know, a different project each quarter, then you should be updating it about, you know, how those projects have gone or changes to your X Matrix, and ensuring, as you say, John, to keep that alive and to continue that communication as you progress through your strategy. And also, I suppose, when it comes to communicating your strategy internally, we have some don'ts as well.
Yes, indeed. And I suppose some of the don'ts are, well, we touched on them already, like acronyms and jargon. But like one of the things we've found even ourselves with trying to filter through so much on sustainability is that there are so many acronyms that, and you keep saying, well, what does that mean? So I think trying not to use acronyms, or if you do use it, then explain it beside it so that at least people understand what you're talking about, because otherwise it just gets lost. Then the other thing is, and it happens with lots of projects, like don't make sustainability the responsibility of just the sustainability team. Get everyone involved. You know, people like to be involved. It's surprising if you involve people in doing anything, the more that they will get involved and the more buy-in you get, then the more buy-in you get from people. And again, don't communicate a strategy once and then forget about it or never refer to it again. This needs to be constantly communicated. And this is where, again, the X Matrix and the sort of communication tools that Gráinne has spoken about already, of trying to keep this alive, keep momentum going, keep the pot boiling, as they say, and make it that people, because of repetition, even if nothing else, that people understand that this is there is a full commitment from the business and from that to achieve the goals that were set out, and that they're not just an aspiration. And then the other thing is, don't forget to communicate your successes. Sometimes people forget that businesses achieve a lot and yet it's not communicated, so nobody even knows that it was achieved. So using it both as a way of showing people that work is being done and that something is happening, but also being able to recognize and give recognition for the work that people do in order to achieve whatever the goal it is that they've set out.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose as a whole, sustainability is going to be kind of a change management thing. So all of these initiatives and objectives you're working towards, you do need to bring your people along. And so having that internal communication is very important. And the biggest aspect of change management is really over communicating. You know, people wonder why are we doing this? And why do I have to change the the temperature on my machine? Why does it have to be lower? And it's communicating the broader picture and what the company is trying to do. And when you can refer back to, well, it's part of our strategic objective number 3, where we want to reduce our carbon emissions. That's the real reason we need to do this. that's really that's what will make it successful. And so, yeah, so LBS Partners Sustainability Team, we can offer a number or we have a number of different supports to help you through your sustainability journey, and we focused on that, facilitating your strategy development. We can support you through that and through the steps we've outlined today. And I suppose beyond that, we offer ongoing support on achieving your sustainability strategy, on carbon footprinting, sustainability project mentoring, we've energy management support. And then an interesting aspect, I suppose, here in LBS Partners, we have a digital team, and an interesting few projects we've completed is developing sustainability data dashboards. So where organizations are gathering their data and doing their carbon footprinting, that you can use the tools you already have in the Microsoft suite to develop dashboards for your sustainability data. And that's a project you've worked on, John, or you're embarking on at the moment.
Absolutely, Grania. And this we found to be, if you like, a very nice add-on to other digital work that we've been doing, that we've seen people, some of our clients who have been, if you like, are looking out for various types of IT solutions to the whole area of sustainability. And really what we're saying to them is that they've been some of the quotes that I've heard from some of our clients, like, are eye-watering in the amount of money that has been looked for to provide these type of tools. But we in LBS, with our digital team now, we believe that we can actually give you an awful lot of help on this to pull all the information that you need and to make it visible on an ongoing basis for everybody. So yeah, that's definitely an area that we think we can really help.
Yeah, because the data is a challenge, the amount of data you need to gather, particularly for your carbon footprinting and your carbon reduction. So that can be a really useful tool. And I suppose the final good news is that there is some funding and supports for developing sustainability strategies, both from the IDA, Enterprise Ireland, and from the LEOs, and those fall under, so it's Climate Action Voucher, Green Start, and Green Plus. It can just be a really great way to get you started with some support on your sustainability journey.
Yeah, and we've on the previous slide we have contact details there for how you get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to talk to you about what you were trying to achieve and maybe to support you in your journey.
Yeah, great. And so I'm going to open the floor now. If we've about 5 minutes left before lunchtime, before 1 o'clock. So if any questions, be happy to answer anything about strategy development, or some of the other offerings that we highlighted. Oh, I think we've a hand up there. We are muted.
Oh, I think I'm off mute now. Thanks, John and Grania. That was super helpful. Just going back to the first step that you talked about, could you please just further describe how you complete the double materiality assessment?
Sure, yeah, of course. Yes, so double materiality, it's initially, I suppose, it's about kicking off your strategy. So you want to get the right people in the room to do a materiality assessment. So that should be your senior leadership. You have to have senior leadership buy-in on your sustainability journey, really. So having those individuals in the room is very important. And then if you identify a sustainability lead, so somebody who's going to have ownership for the strategy overall, they of course need to be there. And then finally, double materiality is about identifying the needs of your stakeholders. So you would need, I suppose, to think about who those stakeholders might be. So perhaps a representative from your employees, from your operations staff, a stakeholder from your customers. So perhaps somebody from sales could be present for that. And then what we find as a great starting point is using the UN SDGs. And I'm sorry, I said not to use acronyms, but those are the UN Sustainability Development Goals. And there's 17 of them. And it's a good starting point. So you go through each of them. So for instance, one of them is clean water. So okay, well, let's think about clean water. Is that one that is relevant to us? And kind of referred to an example earlier. Another is education for all. So does your organization offer some sort of training? Well, then that's one that's relevant to you, and you'll dig into the material issues around that for your organization. And so, as I mentioned, it's about filtering things in and filtering them out, and identifying the really big hitters where you can make a difference when it comes to sustainability. So I hope that answered your question. Bit of a long-winded one.
Yeah, and on top of that, Jane, the other things to be considered is that lots of companies are right. They say, oh well, and I suppose that some things are of no real interest to them. They don't care, but what every company has to care about is the impact and what's coming down the road at them. The impact of, well, look at Spain. Look at last week. What might happen. And what happens if, and there's a lot of things now that the climate is changing. We can all see it. It's lovely and mild today, and like it's hard to believe that you can get 18, 19 degrees in November in Ireland. But whatever this is, the effect of that or the cause that will have impact for us. So looking at how things that are happening in the environment, not only just the physical environment, but then obviously the geopolitical environment, the whole lot, can really prepare a business for what might come down the road, and having a proper strategy and being forewarned or being able to deal with these things is, again, a big strength of being able of having a proper structured approach to sustainability, because it's not just about it's the sustainability of the business, as well as the sustainability of the planet and the sustainability of the community. It's I suppose a balancing act of trying to balance the community, the stakeholders, your employees, your business, and the lived environment.
Absolutely, yeah. Yvonne, you've your hand up there. I'm sorry, I'm muted. How can we unmute you? Oh, there we go.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Grania and John, for a really good presentation. I really enjoyed it. I just have one question, and I think you tipped on it about having a strategy, but it stays at the C-suite level. It doesn't filter down. From your engagement with industries, are you finding that's changing slightly, or do old habits die hard?
I might take that one. I think in some cases old habits do die hard, but one thing we found that's been very interesting is we've worked with an organization who had been using the X Matrix for their general strategy. And sometimes there are things that can be a little bit sensitive in strategies, business strategies that maybe you don't want to communicate more broadly. But the approach they took was they actually had objectives within that I suppose top level strategy regarding sustainability, and then they pulled those out and made a sustainability specific X Matrix. And that one, I suppose there was nothing sensitive within it, that they were very comfortable to share that more broadly. And so that really brought it to life for the rest of the organization. So that was a way around it. But we really do always focus on that point of, if you tell people why the work they're doing is part of a bigger picture, that actually improves engagement with your broader team. And so there's real value in doing that.
Okay, thanks very much. And thanks for a really good presentation.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
So we're just at 1 o'clock now. So we've recorded this session and we'll share it with those who couldn't attend today. But please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or you'd like further information on any of the aspects of those 4 steps we outlined of kicking off your sustainability journey and strategy.
Sorry, Grania, just before
Oh,
you
yeah.
go, I think Sean might have had something
Oh,
there.
apologies, Sean. Sorry,
If
I
you
didn't
have
see your
time.
hand.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, sorry there. Just a couple of points is in relation that a focus could be on efficiency, right? So our carbon footprint per product produced, right, gives a real benefit. But you also have to be careful at the very, very start of the process in actually looking at that double materialism and understanding what the implications are, because government strategies aren't fully defined. In 2010, Food Harvest 2020 called for a 50% increase in dairy production, and the later one is now looking at a 20% reduction in the herd. So when some stuff takes money and time to change, and then you're reversing the digger again. So you just have to be very careful up front that you're doing a holistic process that will be sustainable.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a very good point. And as you say, as part of the double materiality, sifting through what is actually important for this business and what makes sense. When it comes to sustainability, they do have the 3 Ps, so the people, the planet, and profit. And it's acknowledging that, we do need to look after people and we do need to look after the planet, but businesses need to continue to be viable businesses. And so that you do have to take into account, making sure you are successful as a business, and not that your sustainability isn't going to hinder that. And I think that's kind of an example of, increase the herd, reduce the herd, where I need to run a business in between all that. So yeah, it's a very good comment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
Okay.
Good to see you, John.
Yeah. Likewise,
Okay, thank
Sean.
you very much.
Yeah, take care.